This is harassment. This is election interference.
Now, the most important stories from across the country and here at home. A deeper dive into the biggest stories impacting you and your family.
It's an enhancement on a lot of the technologies that we have out there.
Helping children live a healthier life.
Will I have friends? Will I like my teacher? Will I find my group?
Plus the positive and the inspirational.
I'm trying to sell magic and inspiration.
I'm Tom Hanson. Your news starts now. We go now to the latest in former President Donald Trump's legal troubles. Security preparations are underway in the nation's capital, where Mr. Trump is expected to be arraigned less than 24 hours from now. Special counsel Jack Smith unveiling this historic indictment against the former president, charging him with 4 counts, including conspiracy to defraud the United States and to obstruct an official proceeding. Prosecutors allege Trump spread lies even though he knew his claims were false. They also accuse him and 6 co-conspirators of organizing fake electors in 7 states he lost. Trump has denied any wrongdoing, and in a statement, his campaign called the indictment unprecedented political targeting.
This is harassment. This is election interference.
The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies.
The indictment also lists 6 unnamed co-conspirators who have not been charged in the case against the former president. And another top story tonight, the sweltering heat gripping the globe. July 2023 was a scorcher and may have set all-time highs, but climate experts say this is closer to the new normal, all thanks to climate change. The average global surface air temperature reached 62.5 degrees Fahrenheit in the first 3 weeks of the month. That broke the previous record set in 2019. Phoenix saw temperatures above 110 degrees every day except the final day in July, and even then it still reached 108. Arizona's state climatologist says it was the hottest month ever recorded in a U.S. city. And those high temperatures aren't going anywhere. Heat waves are still hitting parts of Europe, North Africa, North America, and Asia. And joining me now is meteorologist Michael Ottavino, who probably isn't too shocked by that news, but I hear there could be a chance for rain in parts of the country this weekend. So, Michael, could you give us some more of those details?
Yes, Tom, we're going to be seeing the threat for at least some rain to build into portions of the United States as the little bit of a change in the pattern sets up. Notice we have this high pressure across Texas and pretty much into the south will gradually start to shift out to the west. So this will set the stage for some more systems to move across the middle half of the United States as well as into the southeast. So let's pick it up 4 o'clock on Friday. Notice we're seeing some storms into the upper plains as well as into the Midwest. Those start to build out to the southeast. Here's the second half of Saturday into areas such as Arkansas as well as into Louisiana, seeing some showers, even some rumbles, and that will also continue as we look ahead into Sunday across portions of the Midwest. And even as we look ahead into Monday, we do have the threat to see more of those showers and storms, and finally some much needed rain even across portions of the Great Lakes. Now, as far as what is that going to do for our temperatures, well, into the great state of Texas, still going to be seeing the feels like temperatures into 108 degrees, but notice into the northeast, we'll see those temperatures into about those middle 80s, and those feels like temperatures will be into the lower to middle 90s by the second half of Sunday. So still continuing to see very hot temperatures, but some much needed rain on the way.
Yeah, we will take whatever we can get, Michael. Thank you. And after the break, Fitch Ratings downgrades the nation's credit rating. Details and what it could mean for you. That's next. Tonight, in a rare move, Fitch has downgraded the U.S. credit rating, dropping it from the highest AAA rating to AA+. The move from Fitch means the nation's credit rating changes from highest credit quality to very high credit quality. Officials at Fitch say the lower grade is due to what it calls, quote, a steady deterioration in standards of governance over the last 20 years, including the long-standing but eventually resolved debt ceiling battle. The White House issued a statement disagreeing with Fitch's decision, saying it defies reality. Moody's, the third major credit rating agency, still has the country with a AAA rating. All right, next on Now, can humans and robots coexist?
That's so cool.
How scientists are looking to answer that complex question. That's next. Now to a national conversation over the future and what a world with robots will look like. Well, we met up with social scientists researching that exact topic on the University of Texas campus in Austin. There's a new top dog, but this four-legged companion won't bark or bite. Instead, its primary goal is to answer an age-old question. Can humans and robots coexist? Here's the breakdown. On the crowded walkways of UT Austin's historic campus, researchers are giving a glimpse into the not-so-distant future. This four-legged animatronic robot, or Spot as it's called, can trot, dance, and certainly turn heads.
That's so cool.
If you saw this on the street, just walking down, what would you do?
Jump. I'm gonna be so honest. I would jump. It is frightening.
What if Spot does this?
I like it. It's just a little scary.
He's a friendly robot. Spot, which is made by robotics company Boston Dynamics, has been roaming all over campus. When the project is up and running, students here will be able to order things like hand wipes and sanitizer through an app, which will then be delivered by robots like Spot. But this isn't just a delivery service. It's one of the most ambitious large-scale studies of its kind to see how humans and robots interact. The simplest of tasks to answer one very complex question.
How people are interacting with robots, as well as how people come to get comfortable around robots.
Over the course of several years, Carrie Stevens and Samantha Shorey will be observing how students engage with Spot.
That can help us understand how to responsibly integrate technology into our social world in a way that makes life good for people, not just machines.
Instead of just throwing a piece of technology out there and hoping people respond the way we want them to, we're going to take a step back and say, let's actually study this in a much more controlled setting.
So you're taking a strategic approach to implementing new technology to people who are unfamiliar. Today, there are already nearly 1,000 Spots out in the world, used by utility companies to police forces. This robotic ram has also been used on the battlefield to carry heavy equipment. Robots making key decisions on their own with the help of artificial intelligence, sonar technology, and 3D sensors.
They're used to do things like plan where the feet will go, to estimate immediately around where the robot is and prevent it from running into things. If we can use your body language and your body cues, we can do it based on where you'll be.
We wanted to see this technology for ourselves. This time I'm going to make myself a little more annoyingly in the way. That is not a problem for him. While Spot navigated our admittedly basic obstacle course with ease, its biggest obstacle of all may be public perception. Blockbuster movies like Steven Spielberg's AI and HBO's hit series Westworld have depicted robots as existential threats to humans.
You're not going to tell anyone anything.
But as technology leaps ever closer to bringing elements of these fictional narratives to life, the speed at which robotics is advancing draws fascination and fear from mere humans. Goldman Sachs estimates humanoid robots could be a $6 billion industry by 2035. But a study by Pew Research found that 72% of Americans are somewhat or very worried about a future with robots. And yes, there's a term for that: robophobia.
The fear of technology being used in a way that is unequal or not from a perspective of justice, there's a historical precedent for that.
There will definitely be critics out there that say this is too soon or could be unsafe. We may find that it's not good to have the robots on the sidewalk with a person. We are very open and not trying to walk into this saying robots are going to solve all these problems.
Humanity has seen fire. They've seen the invention of the wheel, the industrial era with factories and cars. Is this another chapter?
I really think that it's an enhancement on a lot of the technologies that we have out there. It is a new kind of evolution.
Possibilities are infinite.
Absolutely.
I love that story. I asked these scientists what they're excited to learn about the most, and they say it's the unknown, as they say the unintended consequences of this experiment, because even if the experiment doesn't go smoothly, they say they will still learn precious information about robots and humans in the process. So fascinating. All right, coming up, a school shooting averted in Memphis. The details in just a few.
If we were to get rid of all of the mental illness in this country, we would reduce our violence by about 4%.
An important conversation about gun violence and mental health.
You never know. Could be you. Or me.
How to manage a mega windfall if you win big.
We planted her 80 acres of sunflowers.
A special surprise for a wedding anniversary. Plus, a gym welcoming people of all abilities with open arms.
So when they come to me, I've never ever felt any kind of way. I've never been scared, and my first response is, I've got you.
We go now to Pittsburgh, where a jury has sentenced the Tree of Life synagogue shooter who murdered 11 worshipers and wounded 6 others to death. The unanimous decision follows about 10 hours of deliberation over 2 days. The verdict indicates jurors did not buy the defense's argument that Robert Bowers has schizophrenia or delusional beliefs. Their finding is he knew his actions were wrong and had the capacity to stop himself. This is the first federal death penalty sentence under the Biden administration. Over to Memphis now, where police say a Jewish school's strict safety procedures stopped a potential mass shooting there. According to police, a man attempted to gain entry into Margolin Hebrew Academy, but he wasn't able to get in. Instead, he fired several shots outside of the building before driving off. The school provided police with a photo of the man and a description of his vehicle, and officers were able to catch him and pull him over. Officials say he was shot and is currently in the hospital. Thankfully, no students or teachers were harmed. And when we talk about gun violence in America, it often sparks a conversation about mental health, but by speaking with experts, we've learned the link between mental illness and gun violence isn't as obvious as many of us think.
Mental illness and hatred pulls the trigger, not the gun.
We are working to address that anger and violence by going to its root cause, which is addressing the mental health problems behind it.
Let's target the bad guys, the felons, the fugitives, those with mental disease. Let's put them in jail.
We hear it after every tragedy, a link between gun violence and mental health. But while doctors agree there needs to be a more robust mental health system, the correlation between the two isn't so clear-cut.
It's easy for us to see these horrific acts and say, wow, this person must have had something wrong with them mentally. And on some level, it can be a semantic argument, right? Like, they're clearly not doing fine psychologically if they're going to go into a school or a church or a mall and shoot a bunch of strangers. But that's different than having an actual mental illness.
Psychiatrist Amy Barnhorst with the California Firearm Violence Research Center at UC Davis has devoted her career to studying gun laws and mental illness. She says while having a mental illness like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder could lead to a slightly higher risk of violent behavior, the overwhelming majority of people with mental illness are nonviolent.
If we were to get rid of all of the mental illness in this country, we would reduce our violence by about 4%.
Mental illnesses are common in America, affecting more than 1 in 5 U.S. adults. That's nearly 58 million people. But when it comes to these horrific mass shootings, only 5% are related to severe mental illness, and about 25% are associated with non-psychotic mental illnesses like depression and anxiety.
White supremacy, anti-Semitism, misogyny, anti-immigrant sentiment. The majority of these are some sort of hate crime, and they're driven by this ideological hatred of another group. And yes, you can say that is certainly a sign of being psychologically unwell, but it's really not a treatable mental illness.
Dr. Raghi Girgis with Columbia University says people who act out mass shootings often have something called a warrior mentality.
They feel very empty. They feel rejected by the world. They then reject the world, or vice versa. They also have a great desire for notoriety. These are very narcissistic people.
Dr. Girgis and his colleagues analyzed the relationship between serious mental illness and mass shootings. They found the vast majority of mass murderers were male. More than half of those mass murders were committed by white men. The average age was 32, with a range of 11 to 76 years old. Of those people, only 11% had a lifetime history of psychotic symptoms, and 30% had histories of symptoms of any psychiatric or severe neurological disorder.
How wide of a net would you have to cast in order to stop mass shooters from carrying out these things.
When these acts happen, we tend to look back in the shooter's life and say like, oh, wow, he had all of these warning signs. You know, he played violent video games. He was obsessed with weapons. He said weird things to people at school. He was socially awkward and had been bullied when he was younger. These are commonalities we often see. I mean, there are others, and I'm generalizing here, but these things are so common among so many young men in America.
So if these shootings are not being carried out by people who would be clinically diagnosed with a mental disease or a mental illness, what impact does that have on the people who actually walk through life with mental illness?
It increases stigma. These sorts of problems, like mass shootings, can only be solved on a societal or cultural level because the primary drivers are societal and cultural.
Most people support things like background checks. Red flag laws have a lot of support. Most firearm owners really prioritize safety and responsibility of ownership and don't want to see these things happening either.
Doctors add that addressing factors like poverty, crime, and lack of investment in communities is also important. But it all starts by having a better understanding of mental health and how it relates to gun violence. Such an important conversation. Now some of the moments that matter most in your community and your neighborhood. Take a look at this. Sunflowers as far as the eye can see. One farmer in Kansas decided to farm a different kind of crop than he usually does for a very special reason. He and his wife were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. So what does he do? He plants her 80 acres of sunflowers. If you're wondering how many sunflowers that adds up to, he says it's about 1.2 million. He secretly planted the field back in May with the help of his son, so his wife would be surprised.
It made me feel very special, and it couldn't have been a more perfect anniversary gift than a field of sunflowers.
The pair have been together almost all of their lives, and the display of love is drawing people from all over to take pictures and see the flowers in full bloom. Happy anniversary to them. All right, still ahead, subtract summer, add a new classroom, teacher, classmates, maybe a little anxiety about all of it, how parents can help children with back-to-school anxiety. Plus, if you wake a billionaire after playing the lottery, don't you want to be prepared? Well, what you need to know to manage a windfall. Over to your health now. Thoughts of going back to the classroom may be exciting for some, but others may feel uneasy. Health experts say it's normal to be anxious about starting something new, and those feelings of anxiety may look different in children than in adults. Experts say to first figure out what's causing the anxiety by asking open-ended questions and listening to your child. You can then put their mind at ease through problem solving. You can also teach them important coping skills. And over to your money now. If you wake up a billionaire, don't you want to be prepared? Well, a Mega Millions jackpot topping $1 billion is up for grabs on Friday night's drawing. Karen Kaifa is in Washington with a look at the odds, the payout, and the warnings about scams.
Mega Millions crossing the $1 billion mark.
Winner, winner, winner. Thank you.
You never know. Could be you. Or me.
But financial planners say don't just dream, plan. State Farm says before a winner claims a prize, they should call a lawyer, an accountant, and a financial advisor. Depending upon the state, a winner may have a few days or even a few months to step forward. Kiplinger says large prize winners will often need to choose between a lump sum payment minus taxes or payouts over 20 or 30 years. Investing a lump sum well could grow that money, but the yearly payouts will spread the wealth out over time. And the Federal Trade Commission says lottery and sweepstakes frauds are among their top reported scams. They often start with a phone call or a text telling a consumer they've won a prize but need to give the scammer personal information or money. Tuesday's Mega Millions contest is for the second $1 billion lottery prize within weeks. A Powerball drawing on July 19th yielded a winning ticket in Los Angeles for a $1.08 billion jackpot. The biggest Mega Millions jackpot to date was $1.537 billion won in South Carolina in 2018. A $1.348 billion ticket was sold in Maine in January.
Let's bring in Karen Caifa now. Karen, good to see you. Now, it seems like there have been more of these billion-dollar jackpots recently. What's behind that?
Yeah, you know, Tom, we just had a Powerball billion-dollar drawing a couple weeks ago, and that's literally because the games have changed over the last decade or so. These lotteries have wanted to make it a little bit more exciting. So back in 2015, Powerball decided to expand the number of those little white balls and cut down on the number of Powerballs. Mega Millions in 2017 cut down on the number of the white balls and expanded the number of the gold balls. All of that is to say they wanted to increase the odds of winning smaller prizes, but decrease the odds of winning those really big jackpots. So you get a case like Mega Millions right here. That big jackpot hasn't paid out since April. You get that billion-dollar jackpot. Everyone excited about it. And so that's what's happening there, Tom.
Yeah, I think it's everyone's dream to win the lottery. Now, maybe you're not a billion-dollar lottery winner, but some people are winning smaller prizes in lottery games. What do financial planners recommend for those who receive an unexpected windfall like a lottery prize?
Yeah, more of those smaller prizes being paid out, Tom. But before you go and splurge, Kiplinger's Personal Finance recommends that you take stock of where your finances are right now and maybe consider using some of those winnings to bulk up your emergency savings fund and also your savings account. And if you don't have an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses, they say this would be a good time to start. Maybe throw it into a high interest savings account. Let the high interest rates right now work for you a little bit more, growing that money. And then they say take a look at your credit card bills. Is there high interest debt you can pay down there? Maybe a student loan. So first and foremost, try to cut some of your monthly bills, maybe improve your credit score, and then go have some fun with what's left over, Tom.
Yeah, important to keep a level head, even with these crazy jackpots. Karen Caifa, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, next on Now, a gym where fitness and inclusion meet.
He made me feel like I wasn't limited to what I could do.
The personal trainer bringing hope and help to those with disabilities. We'll be right back. And finally here tonight, to Hope Now, where a gym owner across the pond is creating an inclusive environment by using health and fitness to empower everyone of all abilities to follow their dreams. Trazen Bragg has the story.
Let's go. Go now. Go on. Come on, Justin.
There's a very special gym across the pond.
I'm trying to sell magic and inspiration. Happy to be happy.
Where everyone gets the attention and care they deserve.
I just felt like they were getting forgotten about. The people were giving them the respect and the normal experiences that they deserved.
Javino McLean, a former elite cricket player, created J7 Health Center 6 years ago. Since that time, J7 has won Gym of the Year 3 years in a row and twice set a world record for holding the largest indoor wheelchair and disabled exercise class.
Yesterday, we had elite athletes in there in the same time as 4 people with wheelchairs, a cancer survivor, a stroke survivor.
Javino, who immigrated to the UK from Jamaica as a child, says his dream was to create a place where inclusion and fitness meet, a place where everyone can achieve their goals no matter their hurdle.
Anybody disabled, anybody ill, man, anybody who needs hope, you feel me? Cancer, stroke, handicapped, anyone that needs hope, I've never took a penny off them for 22 years.
That's right. The tsunami of positivity that is Javino comes free of charge to those overcoming disabilities. Because as he says, it's so much more than just exercise.
Somebody doesn't want to be on this planet no more because of their disability and the things that they've had to go through. So when they come to me, I've never ever felt any kind of way. I've never been scared, and my first response is, I got you. Give me 30 minutes. Give me 30 minutes and I guarantee I can make you smile. There we go, bro. Channel that inner Mike Tyson.
Josh Coy knows that smile well. He began working with Javino 2 years ago.
It's had such a great impact on everything I do in my life. It's just been such a wonderful experience.
Suffering from cerebral palsy, Josh says he never found a gym where he felt comfortable working towards his goals. That is until he discovered J7.
Everything so much better. He made me feel welcome. He made me feel like I wasn't limited to what I could do.
Beyond his work as a personal trainer, Javino works to develop the minds and characters of young people in his community.
It's not enough to just talk. We have to be in the same room We have to share energy, we have to share experiences. There has to be a round 2 and a round 3.
All the while spreading his message one experience at a time.
Please believe that care is the most powerful tool on this planet.
Just awesome. Trayson, thank you. That's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.